Okay, hi, I'm Luann Alameo here at Hartman Reserve Nature Center, and we're going to go foraging in the forest. I have Katie here.
Hello, I am naturalist here at Hartman, and we are going to take a walk today, and we're going to see what we can find. It's June 18th. Is it the 18th? June 18th of 2020. So the things that we'll find will be seasonal to like the early summer. Being close to the mid. So there's some things we're a little too early for, and some things we missed out on, but we'll definitely find some other things today that will be used in the kitchen to make some great meals.
Great, yes. We're going to go back to the kitchen, and you're going to learn how to make some really tasty dishes with all these forest finds. So we'll see you in the kitchen.
Alrighty.
All right, let's go, Katie. I'm ready to learn.
All right. So as we walk through, before we find some things, I'll talk a little bit about foraging etiquette. So some of these things.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, so we got to be careful where we forage and what we forage. So for example, when you're on public land, typically you can only take fruits, nuts, and berries. But since we're doing a special thing today, and we also do other foraging stuff throughout the year, that's okay, but you have to get permission. So, or private land, things like that, always get permission. And it's good because you don't know if maybe they spray chemicals and some things that you may not want to eat. So it's always good to, if it's someone else's land, definitely, because you'll be trespassing, but also making sure that it's a good, clean source of foraged food, especially greens.
Ask permission.
Always.
Okay.
And then also here in Iowa, the tendrils and just kind of chew on them, kind of like chewing gum, kind of. I've read in a lot of like survival type manuals that sometimes our bodies, when we're in a stressful situation, gum or chewing helps keep our blood pressure down and keep our anxiety down because you're focusing on something else. And these tendrils are an amazing, or if you just want to sit there and chew on something, they're kind of a sour sweet taste, and they're actually really good. A lot of the kids that we take in summer camp really love to pick them.
Well, there we go. There we have our grapevines that we're going to use.
And in late summer, they do produce grapes, and they are very edible. However, they are not like your grapes you buy at the store.
They're very bitter, aren't they?
And well, they can be sweet. You got to pick them at the right time, but they're very small, like teeny weeny, and they have a giant seed in the middle. So, but you can. I've picked them if you wait and wait and wait until they're basically almost bad. That's when they're the sweetest. So you have to get there before the raccoons do.
And we forage on.
Sometimes that's the hardest part, is getting there before the raccoons do. So, and then here's an example of how it grows up a tree. So not all vines are bad. Wild grape, this is Virginia creeper. Another example of knowing your plants. So I get a lot of people like see a vine and they're like, oh,
and
gosh.
You can eat that?
No, you can't.
Oh,
but
okay.
Good example of not all vines are bad, i.e. Wild grape or Virginia creeper. They're not all poison ivy. So there's a good example. Lots of things, though. These are getting...
The wild ginger?
Yep, they're starting to get pretty big, though. These, as we mentioned with the wild grape, young, tender, if you're eating leaves, usually the younger, the tenderer they are, the better.
Right.
And so these have already gone to flower for the season. But a lot of people end up using the roots, and they'll grind them up and use them like a seasoning. And whereas if you're doing that, the age doesn't really matter. But I would caution, don't eat a ton of the leaves of wild ginger because some people get tummy issues with that. So, and that's with all wild edibles, just like any other food. Always try little bits at a time if you've never had the food before, just because you just never know.
Should you take somebody with you who has more knowledge than you, or should you do this alone?
I would recommend, if you have someone or resources to go with you the first time. That's how, people always ask, like, well, how did you learn your plants? Did you go to school? No, well, I went to school, but they don't teach you Iowa plants at college. So I went with other people that were more knowledgeable than I was.
Okay.
And then when we go to professional development and things like that, then that's where we get to do fun things like go on hikes with fancy people and stuff like that. So, and there's some, Dr. Tom Rosberg is actually doing walks, virtual walks, this year, and there's 4 of them that you can go on. So if you're interested, he's an excellent source of information. I've gone on a few walks with him. He's very good. And even having other resources, reference books, apps, things like that. It's always good to get a second opinion. This is not a foraging specific, this is an ID book. But there are specific foraging ones. Sam Thayer, he is an author that makes amazing foraging books. And has a lot of them too. So. And just one other thing, you know, as you're foraging, you remember that you're going to be outside, so other proper precautions like wearing long sleeves and pants, like for poison ivy or nettles, and then also bug spray, you know, sunscreen. Make sure you're dressing for the weather.
Sure.
And what you're going to come across, just because,
I didn't put the bug spray.
you know.
I should have put the bug spray.
Yeah, and, you know yourself. If you're somebody, like I never get bug bites, so I never put on bug spray. But other people can just like breathe outside and all of a sudden they get bug bites, so.
So now where are we going to find the berries?
We are going to be finding, so gooseberries here in Hartman grow down below and up top. We're going to do a quick loop around. And our raspberries are not quite ready yet. They are maybe a week to go on our raspberries.
Okay.
But our gooseberries are ready to rock and roll, or they're, you know, green and big. So they'll be nice to eat right now. I know. Actually, our camera lady today, Erin, she's our extern from East High School. We went out with our interns and they got to eat gooseberries for the first time, which is pretty awesome. So, and before we get there, this one is just another kind of noxious thing to watch out for when we're walking in the woods. This is wood nettle. Wood nettle, when you walk through it, has little hairs on their leaves and on their stems, and it's probably hard to see on the camera, but when you get close to it, it injects uric acid into your first layer of your skin and then causes burning. So if you get burning right away, you did not get into poison ivy, you got into nettles, and it goes away in about 15 minutes. So, but when these guys are young, another superfood of the forest right here. When they're young, you can pick them, blanch them, or drying them gets rid of all their hairs or their stings. And I mean, it's insane. Like you can have in a quarter cup over 500% of your daily amount of potassium. You can even actually have protein that comes out of this plant, like, which frankly, unless it's a bee, you know, good luck getting protein. So, another superfood, but now it's too late. It's getting ready to flower.
Again?
Wood nettle.
Wood nettle.
Wood nettle, stinging nettle. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, okay.
But it's getting ready to flower now. So it's too late, but when they're little, when they're maybe 6 inches tall, is when you harvest them, and they have medicinal properties as well. And that actually, nettles properties are documented, and there's been a lot of scientific study, and you can go online and learn more about that. But yeah, this area we're kind of hitting. So this is our lowland. So this is kind of the floodplain. So our nature center is up on the bluff, and so we're starting to get in. Some things have already flowered and gone away. Like there's a lot of Virginia waterleaf. That's what this one is. That one is also edible when it's young, but we're already past the time for that plant. Beautiful. I think their flowers look like fireworks. They're so cool. So lots of nettle. This is another one that is a very good edible. It's already gone to flower, so we're past the point. But when it's young, this is cow parsnip. And it is not wild parsnip. It actually has white flowers. And there is another plant called giant hogweed. This is not it. Giant hogweed would A, be much bigger, and B, there'd be more leaves. And it is not documented in Iowa yet. So it is an invasive that's coming in. Cow parsnip is native. What you can do is when it's young, you can break the stem of the plant, peel off the fuzzy outside, and then eat it like you would celery. And it's hollow. So that it's
is that the one that you can see through it then?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And Native American, they've been documented to use it for like straws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So very cool, very unique plant, and I get a lot of questions because it's so tall, and it's so crazy big compared to other things. So here's our first gooseberry. This one looks like a lot's been picked off it, so we'll grab our next one. But this is our first gooseberry plant. Gooseberry bushes are like a woody bush shrub. very kind of unique leaves. There's not much else that grows on a woody shrub base. With these leaves, it also has a lot of thorns. And so that's why the reward is ever greater, because you had to pick all of them. But yeah, actually, here's a few. Here's a few right in there. So that's what their berries look like.
Okay.
And they're really tasty. At this point, you can eat them when they're green or when they are purple. And I think when they're green, they're sour, and when they're purple, they're sweet. So it's a really good, it's a unique taste. I think they look like teeny watermelons, frankly.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, and actually, the teeny little town my dad grew up in, there was a guy that sold gooseberries in town, like would pick them out in kind of the wilds and then bring them in. And so we grew up with gooseberry pie and all kinds of things that my grandma used to make. And that'll be actually featured on our Jam with Tam too. She's gonna be making gooseberry jam. So, the one, good and bad thing now as we are getting later in the year is a lot more plant growth, but increases in mosquitoes and also nettles and some other things. Earlier in spring you have less of that, but of course less plants as well. So foraging can happen pretty much any season.
You just need to know what you're looking for.
Yes, except winter is tough.
Okay.
Frankly, most foragers don't do much in winter. There are a few things, but I think the time investment isn't worth what you get out of it.
So what do we find in the fall?
Fall, we get a lot of our nut crop in the fall.
Okay.
And then
here's a gooseberry plant.
Here's another one. They are here at Hartman. They are all over the place. So I encourage people, like, come on out. We have a lot of gooseberries.
I don't see any on there.
This one, it's close to the trail, so it already may have been plucked.
It may have been plucked.
So, but we've got a lot, so we're gonna keep moving. Here's our plantain. Look at those bad boys. Oh, they look good. So,
which one is the plantain?
These guys right here.
Okay.
So a lot of times
you're gonna have to teach me about that one.
Plantain is a very cool plant. So this is called broadleaf plantain, and it has kind of a purpley center,
kind of like rhubarb. Okay.
And then it's got these a broadleaf that is highly veined, but it doesn't have like any sort of fur or spikes or thorns. This grows in your sidewalks. This is only much smaller. This is growing bigger because it's just less here at Hartman. Nobody's walking and mowing it and everything else. So broadleaf plantain is so good for you. It has so much vitamin A in it. Also, it's really great for cuts. So if you kind of chop it up and mush it up, it actually acts as an antiseptic. It's got antiseptic qualities, as well as...
So do you eat it just like you do any other leafy green?
Like a green, yep. And the younger the better, of course, with everything else. And so
which one should we pick here?
I'm thinking we're going to pick these little nice
Why don't you pick
ones.
some, Katie, and
these little nice tender guys in the middle.
Okay.
So they are...
And again, you need to, of course, wash them thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, just like you would handle most any other green.
Okay.
If you've got these in your yard, which a lot of people do, they just don't realize what it is. If you do, I would highly encourage we call it guerrilla gardening. So encourage your wild plants by kind of giving them a little space. Don't run them over with your mower, things like that. So these guys are just going to be really, and they have a pretty,
there's,
not a very strong taste, which
Not very strong,
is good. Sometimes a little too much can be too much.
Okay.
But yeah, you can treat them as a leafy green. But I mean, we've got big ones here at Hartman, but like I said, I bet you've got them on your side. Oh, look at our friend.
Oh, we have another.
Someone else likes the plantain.
Yes, someone else does.
Oh, look at that. Very cool. Little snail guy. So, and that's something too, if you're not gonna, this is kind of a weird tangent, but if you're not gonna eat like when you're foraging, make sure you don't over harvest or forage, because if you're not going to eat it, there's many other animals in the woods that will use it. Okay. So make sure that, you're doing it.
Good point. Good point.
Oh, there's someone else. Oh my gosh, it's a popular day to be a snail.
Oh yeah, there's another one.
So just keep that in mind. I know a lot of times people get excited and then they harvest a ton.
And they over harvest. So,
Yes.
yeah, only harvest what you feel like you're going to use.
Yep. And even in the case of like plantain or wild grape, these things we have a lot of, but you should never harvest more than a third of a patch of something. So if we were going to harvest all like a ton, I wouldn't take more than 30% of this patch.
Okay.
Just to allow regrowth and things like that. And certain plants have more specific requirements, like ramps or wild leeks. You should never dig up the bulb. You should leave the bulb so that it can resprout.
Okay.
So, and which goes for most bulb plants, you know.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
So, because you want to make sure you have something to go back for
Yeah.
year after year.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we're keeping moving just because it's very mosquito-y through here.
It is. Keep moving, keep moving.
Yeah, there's just, it's kind of sometimes hard to
So
walk
do you think the raspberries would be out by, we might be able to gather some up somewhere else.
Yes, and anywhere that's got more sun than Hartman will, next week they'll probably be ready.
Okay, I may have to go on a quest on Monday.
Bike trails are good.
Yeah.
There was one place down in Hudson. Yep, there's some more. Here's some.
Oh, here's what, is that, I've never done gooseberries before. Okay.
Yeah, they are just, they are tasty and.
There they are, okay. Hi, ladies. Are you being bit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Sure. Do things quickly.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, this is like, there's more gooseberries through here. I mean, they're just, look at how big these brambles are through here.
Yeah.
There's just tons of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we may have to go raspberry picking over the weekend or something.
Yeah, and that's something that's kind of hard too, as far as knowing when things are ready. I encourage new foragers. I mean, because books can give you a basic, like technically right now.
Where would we find, we were talking about mushrooms. Where would we find mushrooms? Do we have to go off the trail, Katie?
Usually yes.
Where is a good, I know those are kind of prized
Well,
everywhere.
yeah.
So where's the best place for us to find mushrooms?
Well, today, so when we went walking the other day, we found a secret spot, so we're gonna check it on our way back.
Okay, and it won't be secret anymore.
Well, that's okay. So in this case, when we're doing mushrooms, like what we're gonna find, hopefully cross our fingers today, are gonna be golden oysters. They love dead trees. Dead trees are an excellent place to look for any mushroom, because so many mushrooms that are edible grow on dying trees. So our golden oysters do, pheasant backs do. So those are kind of the two. Chickens will grow kind of basically anywhere. Hens, I like chickens personally.
Thank you.
I like chickens personally. Chickens and pheasant backs are my
Yeah.
favorite. Oh, there's more gooseberries through there.
Yeah, I see that.
All kinds of stuff.
I'm excited I can ID them now.
Well, and we were just.
More.
Yeah, we were just talking about this actually when we went out with on the hike the other day. You know, once you start to understand what they look like, you see them everywhere. You're like, wow, you know. So it's amazing how much of our woods actually are just repeats. You know, there's lots of gooseberries, but it just tastes like sweets. So there's some more gooseberry bushes.
More gooseberries.
And then
What's the best container to collect our forest treasures in?
Yeah, so
What do you recommend taking along with you?
mushrooms, if you're going mushroom foraging, onion sacks are great because they have holes in them. So as you carry your mushrooms, they'll drop spores.
Oh,
So you can actually
help
give back a little bit.
reproduce in the forest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, especially if you're going out with kids or if you're not going to go out on a long trek, ice cream buckets work great. A lot of people have them.
Okay.
They have handles. They have lids, which is helpful.
Okay.
Anything that kind of gets air. So you don't want to put your greens in something that's closed up and can't, just like you would when you get lettuce at the store.
Okay.
Oh man, look at this. Oh
Lots?
man, tons. Absolutely tons of them. Holy buckets.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see.
Tons. Oh, look at this one. My gosh, that's large. Oh,
Let's see.
how big
so
that one
that's
is.
large. Okay, like pea size then. Ow!
Run! So remember when we said bug spray? We really meant it.
Yeah,
Um,
you did.
but-
I didn't wear any.
We're gonna take some. Oh, that's good. Oh, sour. Sour but good. But yeah, they are just, they're kind of one of those, I think gooseberries are kind of a forgotten thing. You know, like I said, my grandma, growing up, we had it all the time. And frankly, as a kid, I didn't really think about it.
Okay.
But,
okay, well, you're just introducing me to something.
but yeah, and
Yeah, no,
actually,
it's really gooseberries.
I do find gooseberry jam when I go up to visit Amish communities. I still
Yeah,
find
sure,
gooseberry jam there.
Sure.
So, and there's so many of it in Hartman. So I encourage you, come on out, eat our gooseberries. Berries are one of those things that you can
now
eat.
I'm seeing them all over the place.
And it was a good year for gooseberries this year. We've seen, I think, fruit development. We've seen a lot this year, so that's good. Different years, we have different levels of how things, if they're doing well or bad. But, oh yeah, here, look at all these grape leaves. I knew we had a
and
lot
look,
on the
and
bike
you know
trail.
what, yeah, and look at how shiny the new ones are.
Mhm.
And
they're
that's
good
a
size.
Yeah, those are
Good
good
sizes.
size to cook with. Yeah, full of antioxidants. They're great.
I've also seen when you, like if you're camping or especially backwoods or primitive camping, where they take the big leaves and make like a steam packet out of it, and they put their
Sure.
fish that they catch
Yeah.
inside of the
Yeah.
packet. So lots of uses.
So then
for it.
you're sustainable and you're not throwing away
Right.
foil or.
And you don't have to pack it in. You
Yeah.
can just
Right.
grab it when you're there.
It'd be yeah,
So
it'd be a good steam packet.
yeah, look at those big guys there. Oh. And it's not a bad, you know, like frankly, just like any other vine or like the ones you buy at the craft stores, you can make wreaths out of them.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds
Yeah.
of cool stuff.
Yeah.
This is one vine that you also should be aware of. It doesn't like hurt you to touch it, like not like poison ivy, but it does have a lot of thorns on it. This is greenbrier. And it's, like I said, it doesn't like hurt you to touch the leaves, like nothing like that, but they just have massive thorns. So sometimes you can get caught in a patch and then have difficulty getting back out. So, and they kind of like, a lot of this is all greenbrier right through here. So they kind of tend to grow in these overarching situations. We have a lot of moonvine on that's what this other, that's what these guys are. They kind of look
Moonvine.
like grape leaves, but
Yeah,
they
they do.
they just aren't as serrated, the edges.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
called
see it, not as
moonvine.
jagged. Okay.
And that's all I really have about moonvine. It's just called moonvine. Sometimes it's not as interesting as some of our others. So, but again, knowing your stuff is just as good. So even though they're not ready, I thought maybe we can talk about raspberries. So this is our first year raspberry cane. That's what that's called. And to identify a raspberry, they have whitish stems.
Okay.
And then they also have thorns. And then on the underside, if you flip them over, they're white.
Ah.
So-
is that what that's what that is too then?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's actually, in my opinion, one of the easier things to identify in the
Yeah,
woods.
it is.
I mean, frankly, if you don't see it, you'll feel it if you're going through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you do.
And raspberries have a first year where it's the first year cane, so it doesn't produce flowers or fruit. And then the second year is when they'll actually develop fruit and flower, or flower and then fruit. So here's another one. The reason like these and like blackberry, they're called brambles, is because after a couple years, the weight, the heaviness, this will eventually hang down and then it will literally replant
Okay, sure,
itself. So it's these big hoops. So like that's how you get stuck in them. So most of the ones next to the bike trail aren't too bad, but we used to have this big area up on our south side. Oh man, whew. I rue the day that anybody gets caught in that thing. But luckily we had some really great volunteers and we got it all cleared out. But yeah, that's something to think about when you're getting in. But raspberries, very easy to identify. And if they have raspberries on them, then you
Yeah.
get a bonus.
If you would find any you're not here over the weekend, are you?
No, well, not this weekend especially.
Oh, okay. Because
No.
I was gonna say it would be nice if I
Go
could find
pick them up.
some to show in the
And
cooking part, even if we don't have enough to do the whole recipe.
Yes. And we've got some in our, we're gonna do this little hot lap and then we'll come back. Because I know Celine said she found some raspberries that way.
Okay.
So, and I asked her if they were flower. Oh, here we go. See, they're close.
Yeah, yeah.
They're close, but they need like another week. So we'll see.
Another week.
This doesn't get a ton because it's all shaded, but
Yeah.
in areas that are more open,
Yeah.
they might be more ready.
Okay. Even if we just had a handful.
Yeah, and that's where you might find something that's just sunnier, and so you might get lucky. Like, look at all this wild grape. Tons of it.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of it.
A lot of it.
We're actually in the process of hitting all this. We're gonna burn this whole thing. So this is a prairie. It hasn't been burnt or like often enough, so this is what happens. These are wild irises.
Yeah. I see that.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna get all this burned and some of the woody. There it is. The log. The big log.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm gonna go in.
Okay. You want us to wait here?
Yes, and I can take the camera with me. Here we go, folks. Okay, we are headed over to a log. This has, ooh, nettles. Nettles, nettles, nettles. So as we walk, you can see lots of cool plants. Wild ginger, lots of that. There's lots of jewelweed in here too. Oh man, look at this log. Okay, holy buckets. So these guys right here, these are golden oysters. Golden oysters are actually our Iowa's only kind of what we would call exotic or invasive mushroom. So these kind of escaped and live now out in the wild. However, the mushrooms aren't exactly invasive. So because of that, they are very much good to eat. You can tell it's a golden oyster. It's obviously got a golden look about it, and it has a dip. Whew. It's got a dip in the middle. As well as other things. I'm actually gonna pick this because we're gonna add this to the cooking. And so when you pick a mushroom, you just kind of pop it off the log. Just like, well, oh, better than what I just did. And it's got big gills on the bottom. And again, if you are foraging for mushrooms, make sure that you're consulting a field guide because again, mushrooms just make me nervous.